Christ is risen from the dead. We are one with him again. Come awake, come awake, come and rise up from the grave.
You know, most people, whenever we read stories, we always aspire to want to be the hero or the heroine. And one of the stories that fascinates me the most about this is the Chronicles of Narnia. It's specifically The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and how you have this story of these, you know, the Pevensie children, and you know, kids read, and you either want to be a Peter, or you want to be a Susan, or you want to be a Lucy, and the reality is most of us are like an Edmund, who's basically, you know, kind of the, you know, somewhere in the middle, and you feel slightly neglected and nobody really gets you, and as a result you're just a little bit self-absorbed. I don't know if you're necessarily selfish, you're just kind of inwardly focused. But eventually what ends up happening is left alone to your own vices, you'll end up selling out your whole family for candy, which is what Edmund does. And I think the reason why writers like C.S. Lewis put people like Edmund in the story is to remind us once again of in the scriptures of who most of us represent, which is Judas. See, a lot of people look at Judas and they immediately sort of like cast him aside, and yet here's a guy, Jesus had the opportunity to pick anybody he wanted to be his disciples and to travel with them for 3 years. There were thousands of followers, and from that he whittled it down to these 12 men, and one of those men was a guy named Judas, who obviously was zealous for God, and he wanted to see you know, the kingdom of God here on earth. But like most of us, sometimes I think we just get impatient with God's timing, and maybe he just got impatient along the way, and then all of a sudden it was like, no, we want a political ruler, and we want things to change here and now. And Jesus is like, you don't understand, that's not really the reason why I'm coming. I'm coming to die for the sins of man. And so frustrated with God's plan, man ends up trying to take things into his own hands. And so Judas in some ways tries to force Jesus' hand, I think. I don't even know necessarily if he thought that Jesus was going to die. Maybe he thought, well, here's the Son of God, and this guy's truly God, then I'm going to get him arrested, and then he's going to finally cause a political uprising, and angels are going to come down from heaven, and they're going to slaughter, you know, all the bad guys, and everything's going to be great. But for whatever reason, Judas just got sick of God's plan and decided to try and instill his own plan. And he did it for 30 pieces of silver, and he couldn't even live with himself after he got the silver. And so, you know, this week we're reflecting on the cross. We're trying to put ourselves in the stories we remember, and you know, maybe instead of being an Andrew or a Peter this year, maybe you're honest and you're like, you know what, in this part of my life, with my finances or with my, you know, own personal issues, I'm like a Judas. I'm not like a Peter. And I'm selling out God for a short and easy solution. And maybe this year you can decide not to, because God already knows, just like Jesus already knew that Judas was going to betray him, and yet he still let him be one of his followers.